Make sure you have the small, hardbound issues book in front of you and turn to page 26. Go ahead and follow along as I read the story, The Writing on the Wall by Kim Nugent. They work at night, covering walls, buildings, and trains with graffiti. They call themselves artists. The police call them vandals. Who are they really? The Manhattan graffiti artist Elaine Maridueña uses the tag KET. He views himself as an artist. Wealthy building owners think that having something on the wall hurts their property values and makes people fearful, Maridueña says. But young people think that writing on the wall is a form of expression. It's artistic and it's beautiful. Khalid Shah is the director of Stop the Violence, a gang intervention program. He believes that graffiti is not just vandalism, but dangerous as well. Gangs use graffiti to mark their territory, which can lead to violence. The cause for a lot of violence involves graffiti and either crossing it out or removing it, he said. For example, 2 young men were shot dead when removing graffiti from a wall in Los Angeles. Graffiti has been a part of American culture since the 1960s and 1970s. Taggers spray-painted their designs on New York City subway cars. The trend quickly moved to other cities and became part of the urban landscape. Over the past 50 years, graffiti has been called everything from street art to crime. The writing on the wall still generates intense opinions and criticism. Go ahead and look at that picture. First, on the bottom left, that's an example of some graffiti in the background there, that little guy with the blue head. And then there's an example of a tagger, someone who would actually tag or graffiti on the side of a wall. So just by looking at him, would you assume that he's part of a gang, or would you assume that he's an artist? Now let's look at the chart on the bottom of page 27, called Graffiti Penalties in Selected States. Notice it shows a state, maximum jail time, maximum fee, and then other penalties associated. Go ahead and look at California. Notice that the jail time in California, the maximum jail time for graffiti, is 1 year, or 3 years if it's a felony. Now, a felony could mean that you did it in a really bad place, like a police station, or there was violence involved, or things like that. Then the maximum fine is $1,000. Now, there's no other penalties in California, but notice in Florida, you can have mandatory community service. That means wearing an orange jumpsuit and cleaning up trash on the side of the road, and a minimum fine of $250 for the first offense. So go ahead and turn the page, and we're just going to read page 28, section 1. It's a crime. Graffiti critics often use the broken windows theory to explain their views. It goes like this. One broken window in a community encouraged vandals to break more windows. Soon, the whole community becomes a target for littering, vandalism, and crime. Richard Condon organized a major graffiti conference in Washington, D.C. He thinks graffiti has an impact just like a broken window. The neighborhood begins to deteriorate, and then that invites first minor crime and then major crime. We can see this in a lot of our cities where graffiti has just taken over. According to Los Angeles Police Department, gang graffiti affects communities even more. Gangs use graffiti to represent their power or to challenge rivals. It isn't just property that is being defaced. The people in the community can become victims as well. The LAPD website issues this warning. When a neighborhood is marked with graffiti indicating territorial dominance, the entire area and its inhabitants become targets for violence. Anyone in the street or in their home is fair game for drive-by attacks by rival gang members. Consequently, innocent residents are often subjected to gang violence by the mere presence of graffiti in their neighborhood. Now let's go ahead and switch over to your portfolios and turn to page 61. Notice at the top, it's called Section Shrink. because we're taking the reading that we did and we're going to break it down. This build fluency section we just did. Read the introduction of section 1 of Writing on the Wall in the Issues book, page 26 through 28. So let's go down to identify key ideas and details. So the discussion frames here, which you should be familiar with, we've done this before. What is the author's main idea? And the response would be, well, the author's main idea is, and then you're going to refer to your text notes to complete that answer. So here it says, many people consider graffiti to be, and then there's a blank. According to the reading we just did, what do many people consider graffiti to be? Now, to help me answer this question, if I were a student, I would go look at some of the headings. For example, on page 28 in the very small book, the hardbound book, the title of section 1 is It's a Crime. So if many people consider graffiti to be a crime, that would be an acceptable answer here, because that's what this first section had to do with. They also talked a lot about gang activity. So that would also be an acceptable answer here as well. Many people consider graffiti to be related to gang activity. So now coming down here to the second part. What are the key details in this section? Now remember, key details are the small important sentences put in the reading here or there to let us know what the overall reading is actually talking about. So one key detail in this section is blank. And they give you 3 options here. And this first bullet says, graffiti has been a part of American culture since blank. Now this is a direct quote from the text. Now you can search it and find it, and I'll give you a hint. It's actually on page 27 somewhere. So turn to page 27 in that small book and fill in this blank. Now let's go ahead to this second bullet point. It says blank use graffiti to mark blank. Well, this first blank is obviously a person or a group of people. Somebody uses graffiti to mark blank. Now, if you remember from the reading, it talked about a specific group of people that use graffiti to mark something. And if you're having trouble, the answer to this one is located on page 26 in that last paragraph. And then this final bullet point. Graffiti critics use blank theory to explain their views. So remember, they talked about a theory in the reading. It was on the last page, page 28. And it's in that very, very first paragraph. It talks about a specific theory, and there's 2 words, to explain their views about why they should get rid of graffiti and why graffiti is bad. Now, the last thing we're going to do in this video is to go down to the condensed idea section. This section is pretty cool, in my opinion, because it's kind of going to guide you through how to take some details in a text and then break it down into one sentence that you can use to actually paraphrase the key information in what we read. So here in text detail number 1, it says, Richard Condon thinks graffiti has an impact just like a broken window. Text detail 2, one broken window in a community encourages vandals to break more windows. And then text detail number 3 says, soon the whole community becomes a target for littering, vandalism, and crime. So all 3 of these details actually string together to form one thought. We can actually paraphrase it right here. So notice here it says, Richard Condon feels illegal street art has the same blank as a broken window because one broken window can blank more broken windows, which can increase the rate of crime in blank. So by looking at these details, we can kind of use figure out what connecting words would make sense here in this sentence. So it says, Richard Condon feels illegal street art has the same blank as a broken window. Well, a good word to use here would be effect. He feels that graffiti or illegal street art has the same effect as a broken window, which is part of the broken window theory. Because one broken window can blank more broken windows. what word or words would you put here? If you put something along the lines of lead to, well, that would be correct. So, because one broken window can lead to more broken windows, which can increase the rate of crime in blank. Where would this increase the rate of crime? Well, there's probably a few good words to put in here. If you put something along the lines of in a neighborhood or in a community, you would be correct.